Commission on Judgment Debt will not rule out reaching out to the headquarters of French multinational bank Société Générale for information on the sale of a drill ship to settle a judgment debt awarded to them more than 10 years ago. This was after a representative of the bank here in Ghana told the Commission his checks indicate no such records of the judgment debt settlement exist, not even the $19.5 million paid them. The Commission maintains it wants to establish the truth about how the GNPC drill ship was sold off.
Records of the transaction, which is proving extremely difficult to come by, involves the sale of the GNPC drill ship Discoverer 511 in the year 2001. After initially denying knowledge of the transaction, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation Chief Executive has since conceded that it was captured in the minutes of the board at the time. The Commission's attempt to retrieve additional records from the main beneficiary of the transaction was, however, unsuccessful. The Managing Director of Société Générale Ghana, Gilbert He, explained to the Commission his checks drew a blank.
When I had a copy of this information from my legal department, I requested this legal department to contact our legal department in head office in Paris to make research. We have contacted them a few times, but unfortunately we could not retrieve any document or any trace. I know that under the French law we have the obligation to keep all the documents during 10 years. So because this case is older than 10 years, I was not surprised that this legal department could not retrieve anything.
The Commission is, however, not given up yet.
We are dealing with the issues that surround us, and when we finish with that, we still need those. Still need some information from the headquarters of Société Générale. We will do that. But you already have a document that emanated from the Ministry of Energy, so it cannot be a fiction. The ministry cannot just concoct a document. What we are worried about is in respect of how these monies, which were realized from the sale of the drill ship, were disbursed.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also failed to present documents on the award of 60,052 Ghana cedis to a former employee of the Ghana mission in the UK. James Menu is said to have sued the AG over unsatisfactory end-of-service benefits amounting to £10,463. The sole Commissioner on Judgment Debt, Justice Yao Apau, expressed his disappointment with the AG's inability to adequately defend the nation in such cases.
Everybody sees the state as an amorphous institution, as a state not belonging to anybody. So monies just go out like that, just from state coffers. We turn around, and we want increment in our salaries. We want big pay, we want this, we want that, we want that. We see it as a separate entity sitting somewhere, buying.
African Automobile, meanwhile, returns tomorrow to justify judgment debts awarded to them in respect of claims made on some government agencies.
In a related development, the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, APNAC, says government must seek international help in unraveling the mystery surrounding the sale of GNPC's Discoverer 511 drill ship. The advice comes on the heels of a testimony by a representative of the French bank at the judgment debt sitting that the bank has no records to show it received such an amount. But the executive director of APNAC, Daniel Batidam, has asked government to rely on existing international treaties to get to the bottom of the matter. He said both Ghana and France are signatories to the United Nations Conventions on Trade and Development, which allows mutual legal assistance when the need arises. He also advised government and the Judgment Debt Commission to be mindful of international mafia of highly professional people who conspire to dupe states like Ghana.
Well, that's interesting. But we're only hoping that the French bank, Société Générale, will be able to find the records so that they will be able to furnish us with further and better particulars of the records, and then we'll know how to move on from there. But let's move on from the Judgment Debts Commission now. A youth group affiliated to the New Patriotic Party, calling itself the Upper West Youth Chapter of the New Patriotic Party, has blamed the dismissal of the party's petition at the Supreme Court to the conduct of its General Secretary, warning that the party would continue to wallow in opposition if Sir John is maintained in his position. Here's a report by Rafiq Salam. At a press conference in Wa, members of the youth group alleged that Kwejo Usefriye, popularly known as Sir John, dared the Supreme Court justices to bargain their lives, which they did, by dismissing the case of the petitioners. Members of the Upper West Youth Chapter of the New Patriotic Party stated that they intend to push people who have strong intellectual abilities to occupy positions in the party and the nation at large. A former Wa Central Constituency Secretary of the NPP, Abubakar Mujib, blamed the dismissal of the party's petition at the Supreme Court on the conduct of the General Secretary of the party, Sir John.
It is worthy noting, ladies and gentlemen, that the conduct of our General Secretary of late is poor at best and simple. He dared the Supreme Court judges to bargain their life. The judges responded, "We lost the petition." Number one, we cannot reach such a character as our General Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, anymore. Else, we should be prepared to wallow in opposition in perpetuity. The Upper West Chapter of the New Patriotic Party youth will be hoping and praying that the challenge thrown to Honorable Kobna Adje Ajapong, he will rise to the occasion to save the image of the party.
Rafiq Salam's report from Wa.
Now, the Association of Building and Civil Engineering Contractors has accused government of insincerity in its claims that it has put a freeze on the award of new contracts and is threatening to sue the state if it fails to settle all outstanding debts owed them before the end of this month. The association's executives say they have been forced to resort to the courts to retrieve their monies since several reminders to government has proved futile.
President of the association, Martins Nuro, first outlined the impacts of the delayed payments on their businesses.
Long delay in payment for work executed results in the suspension of projects for lack of funds. Workers are laid off, and this creates unemployment, which brings about economic hardship. Suspended projects increase costs to both government and contractors. Government pays high costs on delayed projects as a result of increase in prices in materials over the period. For example, the affordable housing projects left unattended to for 5 years would attract high costs now than its original cost.
He also accused government of foul play, noting that even though government says it has put a freeze on the award of new contracts, some new contracts were still being awarded, especially to foreign contractors.
Another area we find very disturbing is the recent awards of GET Fund projects to some contractors in the regions, even though government had announced that it would not award new projects until it clears all arrears due contractors. We believe this is not a good thing to do, and so government must look at it or initiate an investigation into the matter, else the construction sector will further suffer.
He described government's indebtedness to members of the association as long overdue, with some of the amounts outstanding for more than a year.
That government honors our claims on interest on delayed payments promptly so as to mitigate the losses so far incurred through the long delay. That failure on the part of government to meet the above shall leave the contractors no alternative than to advise ourselves by going to the courts to claim all monies due for work done, including interest on all delayed payments.
Officials later advised government to plan its infrastructure projects, taking into consideration its revenue inflows and obligations, in order to forestall any unprecedented long delays in payments to contracts in the future.
Now, as many as 380 patients of the National Cardiothoracic Center, including children with various heart diseases, are currently hanging on for dear life because they are unable to come up with the money to pay for the cost of their treatment, which is sometimes as high as 12,000 Ghana cedis per patient. Doctors at the center say the survival rate of such patients diminish with time, thus the need for them to be treated urgently. At the launch of a concert to raise funds to help some of the patients, officials appealed to corporate bodies, groups and individuals to come to the aid of the needy heart patients.
Each year, majority of them from heart attacks and strokes. The global trend is supported by statistics from the National Cardiothoracic Center, which indicates 60% of adults die from heart-related diseases. According to the director of the center, Dr. Lawrence Agyemang-Serebour, most patients are dying simply because they cannot afford the high cost of treatment.
The main problem that patients are having as far as the heart surgery is concerned is affording it.
He explains the fundraising musical concert is a timely gesture which should save lives, adding that it will target 20 of the most critical cases on the waiting list of nearly 400.
Whatever monies that are going to be realized from this Save a Life concert is targeted towards patients. And what we have done is to look at the waiting list. But we are looking at those that have been waiting for the longest time and also those whose conditions we find very, very critical. That without surgery, they are not going to last maybe the next 1 or 2 years. These are what we have selected, and we selected 20 of them as the target.
High Life artist Kwabna Kwabna, who is headlining the concert, says it is part of his social responsibility and hopes to put smiles on the faces of the patients.
I'm so motivated because I have an opportunity to give something back to my society. Just save a life and support the Heart Foundation, support the National Cardiothoracic Center so that those underprivileged can have surgery.
Dr. Lawrence Agyemang-Serebour urged corporate bodies and individuals to support the concert billed for the 16th of October at the banquet hall.
That's a rather worrying one, at least 400 on waiting list.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
And you know, it's not just heart surgery. There are a lot of other, you know, people don't even have, let's say, 2,000 cedis maybe to do simple surgeries. It's very worrying, like a lot of sick people out there.
Well, we do hope that at least the concert raises the needed funds so that they will be able to give this patients the surgery that they do deserve. We do pray so. But before we go, let's take a second look at the stories making headlines. Finance Minister Seth Terkper is expected to meet Parliament today over the freezing of the HIPC accounts and other statutory accounts assessed by parliamentarians.
Anti-corruption body advises government to seek international assistance in solving the controversy surrounding the sale of the GNPC drill ship, the Discoverer 511.
And as we just heard, some 380 patients at the Cardiothoracic Center at Korle Bu hang on for dear lives as they are unable to foot the bill for their surgery, which is, we're told, sometimes is as much as 12,000 Ghana cedis.
But you know, they even foot half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the news for now. We'll do sports in a bit. Do stay with us.
And we are back on the AM show. It's time now to do some sports. Welcome.
Yes, and you know, today Ghana would also know its opponents for the next CHAN qualifier. That's the Championnat African National.
The one we say is for the local Black Stars.
Yeah, the local Black
I don't know why we do that.
Well,
they're still Black Star players. Anyway.
Yeah, actually not. Okay, so these are for homegrown players.
Okay.
So you are not supposed to be playing outside Ghana. So that yes, it's a senior national team. You're supposed to represent with your senior most national team, and that's the Black Stars. And we call them the local Black Stars because they're all local based players. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Unfortunately, there's no other name we can call them by.
So local Black Stars.
Yeah, for now.
I'll think of one, don't worry.
Yeah, and you know, yesterday, Champions League, there was Champions League action.
Exactly.
And I mean, watching from start to finish, it was so predictable, and I knew where all the results were going to go. And yeah, it happened like
Real
that.
Madrid, I heard, gave Galatasaray some 6-1 or
6-1, yes.
They're supposed to be the champions of Turkey football.
Okay, don't get it all wrong. You know, English football, Spanish football is different from Turkish football, and
but
you know,
it's supposed to be like the big from Spain and the big from Turkey.
Well, let's see. Maybe Galatasaray can pick up some points from the other matches that are coming up. Sponsor the AM show is proudly sponsored by Tigo. Smile, you've got Tigo. You're welcome back. Now, the draw for the next qualification stage of the 2014 FIFA World Cup, of course, was held on Monday, and we know that we're playing against Egypt. I mean, Ghana knows that we're playing against Egypt, and we've had so many reactions from the Ghana camp, from all the other teams that are into the next stage of these qualifiers. Now, the coach of Egypt, Bob Bradley, remember him? We played against his side in the Germany 2006 World Cup, and then that was the USA. We beat them, and then in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, we also met the USA. He was coach of the then team. We also happened to beat them. Now he's coaching the Pharaohs of Egypt, and is he coming on with new tactics? How is he hoping to kill this Ghanaian bug that seems to be biting him in the face almost every time that he meets them? Coach Bob Bradley for Egypt, he has been reacting to the draw of his side playing against Ghana.
Again, we have full respect for Ghana. They're a very strong team, but I believe we're a strong team also. So to get to the World Cup, you'll be tested. And in this case, I think we'll be tested, and I think Ghana will be tested. And whoever comes through will represent Africa in a great way.
All right, that was American coach Bob Bradley. Now let's go to Ethiopia. Ethiopia have drawn Nigeria, and Nigeria will go away to Addis Ababa first in the qualifiers before they come back to their country to host Ethiopia. Their coach, Sun Bishal, he's also been reacting to his draw. He thinks that he has a fairly good side to play against, and so he is on his way to Brazil. Let's listen to Sunet Bishal, coach of Ethiopia.
Nigeria is a very strong team, a very strong nation, and many times, winner of African Cup and qualified for World Cup also. So I hope we will play very, very strong team against Nigeria.
Right, so away from the World Cup, let's talk about the Championnat Africain National, or the Champion of African Nations, what we refer to as CHAN. Ghana is going to know its opponents for not the qualifiers, actually, the actual competition that comes up later this year. So let's see how Ghana is preparing and how the other countries are also preparing for today's draw. Right, so the fixtures coming up. Actually, the draw has been done, and so it's South Africa that will be taking on. The draw has not been done yet. The seeded teams are in Pot 1, and it's South Africa, DR Congo, Ghana, and Zimbabwe. They are the top teams in Africa when it comes to the CHAN. And then Pot 2 has the unseeded teams. Those are the low highest ranked teams. So we have Gabon, Mali, Libya, and Uganda. And Ghana is going to draw one of these sides from Pot 2 for the competition. So that's what's happening. And then in Pot 3, we have Burkina Faso, Burundi, Ethiopia, Nigeria. Pot 4 will see Congo, Mauritania, Morocco, and Mozambique. Right, so last night all over Europe there was action. Real Madrid were in action, Bayern Munich were in action, Manchester United were in action, Man City were in action, and all these sides won their matches in their respective games. Let's catch a glimpse of what happened in the UEFA Champions League group stage yesterday.
David Moyes finally stepped into the glare of Champions League combat as Manchester United opened their campaign against Bayer Leverkusen. Meanwhile, Liverpool stalwart Sami Hyypiä returned as Leverkusen coach, hoping to emulate his final match at Old Trafford, a Fernando Torres-inspired 4-1 victory. That seemed far off when Patrice Evra whipped in a pinpoint cross.
The breakthrough comes for Manchester United.
The German club held out for the remainder of the first half and went on to shock the Theatre of Dreams in the 54th.
Rolfes! Oh, a stunning shot! And stunned is the word at Old Trafford, momentary silenced.
RVP seldom fails to make an impact and made sure that Hupier's men would only enjoy parity for 5 minutes.
Rolfes with him, but he's delivered the cross. Van Persie! Oh, fantastic! And Manchester United find the perfect answer.
From that point on, the Red Devils hit their stride, and a second from Rooney followed, who has now surely put to rest the doubts over his commitment to the cause. Antonio Valencia added a fourth before the visitors knocked in a consolation in the dying stages. Moyes will be pleased with the 4-2 scoreline and his first foray into the top flight European night.
Real Madrid began their UEFA Champions League campaign away to Galatasaray in a Group E clash on Tuesday as Carlo Ancelotti's side set out to lift the European Cup for a 10th time. Madrid's latest acquisition, Welshman Gareth Bale, who scored on his debut at the weekend, was resigned to the substitutes bench. It was the host that showed early intent, Felipe Melo sharp bringing out the best in Los Blancos keeper and captain Iker Casillas. However, the skipper would have to leave the field minutes later with an injury to his ribs after an accidental collision with teammate Sergio Ramos. Casillas' replacement Diego Lopez was a suitable match, as he was called into action early to deny Melo from close range. Lopez made another telling save just after the half-hour mark. Galatasaray's Melo again denied. Just seconds later, and Madrid took the lead.
Oh, here's Isco in space. Isco deflected, and Real Madrid hit the front.
Just before the halftime whistle, Cristiano Ronaldo, looking for his first Champions League goal of the new season, had his effort saved. Real Madrid led 1-0 at the break. The second half was all about Los Blancos, says Angel Di Maria's pass found Karim Benzema, who made it 2-0 9 minutes after the restart. Ronaldo, not one to be outshone, got his name on the score sheet just past the hour mark, finishing off a goalmouth scrap from close range. The Portuguese international, who scored 12 Champions League goals in 12 appearances last season, then scored his second of the night in the 66th minute. Ronaldo then turned provider as Benzema was in hand to claim his second to make it 5-0 in a clinical game for the Spanish Giants. The hosts managed some consolation, Umut Bulut finally netting the goal they had been searching for with a finely deflected shot. However, Ronaldo had had the final say in the match.
Cristiano Ronaldo, great feat. Cristiano Ronaldo, that is stunning. Absolutely stunning. He is still the man, Cristiano Ronaldo, for Real Madrid.
In the Group B encounter in Gelsenkirchen, pre-tournament favourites Juventus managed to salvage a 1-1 draw against host FC Copenhagen. The host went ahead in the 15th minute through Nikolai Jorgensen from a set-piece situation.
And the Champions League continues tonight at the Stamford Bridge. Chelsea host FC Basel. Veltins Arena will see the game between Schalke 04 and Steaua Bucuresti. Marseille, they will host Arsenal at the Stade Velodrome. We see Napoli hosting Borussia Dortmund at the San Paulo. And then San Siro will see that game between AC Milan and Celtic. Barcelona will host Ajax Amsterdam at the Camp Nou. The Vicente Calderon will host Atletico Madrid and Zenit St. Petersburg. And Austria Vienna, they will host FC Porto at the France or Stadium. The biggest match for tonight is that game at the Stade Velodrome between Marseille and Arsenal. Trust us to bring you all the details of that one and more in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Rashida Baba Kadiri. AM Sports is proudly sponsored by Tigo. Smile, you've got Tigo.